Yes, we're live. What's up, everybody? It is Thursday. This is Steve Witchell, founder of Cover Band Central. How are you guys doing in the Cover Band Central audience? It is Thursday, January 28th, 11 a.m. my time, Central Time, here in New Orleans. And it is Thursday, which means we're doing another interview. Next week, we will not be doing an interview because I will be going in for a second surgery on my elbow. So just people who look forward to this know that, and then hopefully return the following week depending on my recovery. But this week, usually I interview people that I don't know, but I reached out to an old friend who I do know, obviously, to get together and just chat because I haven't talked to him in a while, and I figured we could do it here in front of you guys, and you guys can ask questions if you like. PJ Zitarosa is an accomplished guitar player, has done several tours. He's from New Jersey originally, which is where I'm from, and then moved out to Los Angeles and played around a bunch around there. And we did a tour in 2008 together, which was a blast. So we're going to reminisce about that a little bit. And then we will catch up with what he's been doing in the last decade. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, PJ Zitarosa, there he is.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, dude.
Appreciate it. Me, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. I met you. I don't know if you remember, but I met you at we were doing a rehearsal thing for a band that never transpired, which was it was a band you were in with Elaine, right? What was the name of that band?
What was it, a spinoff? What we were doing?
New
Power Soul.
New Power Soul, and then we were going to do New Power 8 or something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Do you remember that?
And of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't we go to Tommy Fox's after or something for beers?
Yes, we did. We did. That's right. We did.
I missed their burgers too. They're good burgers.
Yeah, So New Power Soul was a really popular cover band in New Jersey at the time. Big band. You guys had horns and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I think some things were changing, so you guys were deciding to change it up a little bit. And then I got a call. I think it was Elaine hooked me up. Elaine Tuttle was a singer that is a mutual friend of mine and PJ's. And I went. I only remember one time getting into a rehearsal room, and that's where I met you.
Right.
And we were there for a couple hours, and then nothing ever transpired from that. But I think you and I hit it off right away.
Absolutely.
And then you're right. We went out for beers, Tommy Fox's, and then I at the time was really trying to get some gigging work, like touring work, any gigging work. And then I got contacted by this manager who hooked me up with two tours actually for 2008. And after he hooked me up, he's like, "Do you know any guitar players?" And I had just met you, and I thought you were a great player and a great guy. So I was like, "Let me call PJ and see what he thinks." And you were on board, and then we were off.
Well, the funny thing with that too, right, is Steve Brown and PJ Farley did the record
from Trickster, right?
Witchell and PJ Zitarosa did the tour, so we freaked John out because he's like, "Wait, PJ and Steve."
Yeah, Steve is a common name. PJ not so much. But,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was that was a great time, and I just remember anytime I tell the story of that, I always think about the first few days in Los Angeles. And PJ and I flew out to Los Angeles from New Jersey and spent like 3 or 4 days rehearsing, right?
Yeah, we were in Redondo. It was awesome.
Yeah, right? And we were just like, we've reached utopia. This is just amazing. They treated us really well, took us out to dinner and all that.
Excuse me. Yeah,
and then we toured in a van for a month around the entire country. Actually, we had a van and then we had a separate vehicle. Do you remember that?
I do. That was a little.
what was the impetus for getting the second vehicle? Do you remember?
Well, I remember we were leaving the state of California. I think it was we did. I think we did, right? I think we were just intrigued by Death Valley because it was so hot, and Matt thought the tires were going to melt.
Who is Matt? Who is Matt?
Matty.
Well, the audience doesn't know who Matt is. I do, but
has Matt been? Do we all know Matt?
Nobody knows Matt.
Matty Poopy Pants.
Oh, all right.
It was.
I didn't even know if you were going to go there, but you went there already. So
Carl and I we're still like get a little chuckle. Poor guy. We were just being silly, and next thing you know, we're
going to have to tell that story now. So I'll tell part of it. You tell part of it. But we all met in Los Angeles. PJ and I knew each other, but the rest of the band was this guy Matt playing drums, and the artist Jon Jones was singing and playing guitar as well. And somebody just commented, and I'm going to show comments here, Peach. So
he's a great guy.
So he is a great guy, great musician, very talented. But so we PJ has this tendency to give people nicknames, just for fun, nothing malicious, just fun. And I don't know how or why you came up with this nickname, but we're walking around and you're just calling Matty Pants. Matty Pants.
That's right.
Matty Pants. And, it's like, all right, we're going to lunch. All right, let's go grab Matty Pants. And whatever. I don't think you gave me a nickname that I know of, but maybe you did.
Wait, who?
Me. I don't know if you gave me.
I think I call you Stevie Steves.
Stevie Steves. All right.
That's
good. That works. So Matty Pants. So we're there for a few days, and then we get in the van to go on tour. We're getting the rental truck stuff, and we're just getting ready to hit the road. And Matt's on the phone with his girlfriend, and he goes and says to us, "Hey guys, my girlfriend just told me that my last name means bathroom in Spanish."
Right. I forgot.
And this was day one. And then PJ looks at me. We're all in the same vehicle, and PJ just goes, "Poopy Pants." And then from then on, Matt was known as Poopy Pants. And he did not like that. He did not like that nickname. I don't know if he liked Matty Pants, but he definitely didn't like Poopy Pants. To the point where he got very upset and contacted the manager,
right,
and told us to cease and desist calling him Poopy Pants.
I mean, dude, talking about stories that we know of other bands on the road touring and pooping in pillowcases and whatnot. Like, we were just calling them Poopy Pants, but I get it. We stopped. But, some people that would fuel it. And then it becomes more. And you and I were like, all right, brother.
Yeah, but we were laughing about it.
We would talk to each other about it. I still call them Poopy Pants.
Yeah. We're, yeah.
That was fun, though. That was awesome.
It was a good time. It was the first time for me being out on the road, like touring and going, all over the country and playing these clubs. And it wasn't a big deal. We weren't playing these huge venues or anything. We were playing, in fact, to some clubs to almost nobody sometimes, because we were playing it in the sticks, I think sometimes, right? My memory of that tour is so fuzzy. Maybe you can refresh my memory on some stuff that we. I
think I remember more of when we. Right, I think more like in the Midwest. Excuse me. And then I remember we stopped at what was it? It was really hot though, because the tour started in June, so we were in Arizona.
Yeah, it was the summer. Yeah, 118,
and then I think I just really, because I've never done a coast to coast U.S. tour either, and I think that we were just we were well, let's face it, when we left. The story is that marijuana is legal now. And was it legal in California in 2008?
It was legal for medicinal purposes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So one of our bandmates loved. He was actually yeah, he was what, I don't want to get too much into Jon Jones, but his personal stuff. But I mean, beautiful guy, awesome dude, great songs, right? We loved.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Great. But he was smoking, for medicinal reasons for sure, and he brought a lot with him.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, he was like required almost to smoke every day, I guess, for his condition, whatever it was.
Right. So, here we are from the suburbs of Jersey, and we see how much weed they got in the van. And they start talking about how the last tour, they all got arrested once they crossed over California lines.
Right. They were put in the paddy wagon, right?
We're like, what?
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because we had to, I don't know if we did it on our tour, but we had to go through customs. They had to go through customs.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if we did.
No, I think we blazed right through, and we were all like, great. But you and I think, chatted about it. Did we bring Matt? Did we talk to Matt? I think we talked to Matt too, because I didn't really smoke weed. Actually, I don't think I was. But no, I didn't. I wasn't smoking any weed. But so I think we all came to an agreement, like, maybe we can figure this out and we can get our own car.
Well, I think it was Matt was uncomfortable, or maybe you and Matt both were uncomfortable,
and I think
being in the same vehicle with that amount of illegal drugs.
Yeah, it was just it was a little concerning. And then and John's mom rented us a car, so a Charger. Didn't we have a nice badass Charger too?
Yeah, and I remember riding in that, but I don't know why I wasn't in the van too. Because it was like me, you, and Matt in the car,
and he didn't drive. I don't think
he didn't drive at all.
Right. I don't know if he knows how to, or like he just. I don't remember, or he was just afraid. There was too much road. I don't know.
I don't know either. But
I think he was just like, we'll take care of it. And he was on the phone a lot.
A lot. Like, so you and I shared the driving. I actually ended up doing another tour that year with Jared Fink, and Matt was the keyboard player, and he was on the phone a lot then.
Oh, Matt was on that tour as well, right?
Yes. So Jared and all those guys got the whole experience as well. And I told them the story. I didn't tell them right away, but I told, as time went on, it wasn't that long, a couple weeks into the tour, I kind of told them that story, and they were like, what? Matt's a really nice guy. What are you talking about? And then eventually they were like, oh. Yeah.
It's like, certain things, like, it just should be like, it's just kind of the routine. Like, okay, well, if I'm driving and you're getting the gas or whatever, like, so eventually we were like, dude, can you help out a little bit?
It should be a team effort.
It got a little weird.
Yeah. When you're on tour with the same people for an extended amount of time, you really get to know other people. Fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Because you spend an awful lot of time in a van driving, and then in a hotel room, and then playing on stage. So you're with these people basically 24/7.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot about people quickly. But fortunately, you and I got along great. So,
yeah.
And Jon kind of kept to himself, so he was doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And we had Brett. What's his name? I think.
Brett. Yeah, man. I saw him a few times at NAMM, like over the past few years. And he was awesome because he and Jon were bros from, like, they were kids, right? Tiny.
Right.
So those two were, they were just great. And having him along was awesome. I remember we saw his pops in Arizona, I think. Brett.
Remember that? Remember it at all? No.
That was like day 3 on the tour to whatever. I forget what venue. Yeah. But I think when we were really starting to, like, when we got on the East Coast, and we went to Philly, and then I think some people came out in New York City when we played there. And then I think that's when we were like, oh no. And then, well, I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah, that's right. We came back around we had a couple of days off. Did we have a couple of days off?
In Jersey. I remember being off in Jersey. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which was nice, you know?
Yeah.
And,
I remember because I was in a hotel room by myself, which was awesome. And I had the car.
Oh, cool. That's right, dude. Yeah.
I had the car
that came to the gig.
Right.
Right.
And I remember I shaved my chest in the hotel room.
Nice.
And that's the first time I had ever done that.
I love it.
And I completely regretted it after I did it.
Okay.
Well, because I got all these bumps and stuff on my chest. I'm like, why the hell did I do that?
I used to shave my legs a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Too much effort. Did I have my legs shaved on the tour?
You did. You were hairless. You were completely. Well, as far as I know, you were completely hairless. That's what you told me. So, all right, let's stop right there with that.
You know, I wanted to get on that Jared tour, I think, and then
you were supposed to, and then something happened.
I think Gene was like, I don't know if it's going to work out, and I think they already had a guy, but Jared, man, that's cool. Are you doing anything?
No, but I went on tour with Jared. Yeah, in 2008, Steve Dunn was the guitar player, and we were out for 2 months, and then we did a couple subsequent shorter tours and some off gigs here and there. But I'm still in touch with Jared, still in touch with Steve. That was a blast as well. That whole
cool
experience. Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say so that was like 2008. You did that throughout 2009.
2008. It was
right. Oh, that was still 2008. You went back out that fall.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's right about when I got back with Tyketto.
Right. So that's what I wanted to get into. And because I was looking at your one sheet and your resume and stuff, and Tyketto was 2009. So Tyketto was a late 80s hard rock band. They had some pretty decent success. I don't remember if they had a big hit or not.
Forever Young, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
A couple, but Forever Young was like their, living on a prayer.
The big like MTV hit, yeah.
Huge, yeah.
So talk about that, about getting that tour, because I don't even know a lot about getting that tour and what that experience was like.
Oh my God, it was amazing. It started back when I joined the Love Pumps back in 1998.
Love Pumps. Joe said he really enjoys interviews like this.
Joe, what's up? And Mike Arbini, he was our manager and booking agent, and he just asked me. I don't know. He was managing Love Pumps, and we were doing all that that era of I forget what the set list was, but like that was like 311 and I don't know if we were doing some Limp Bizkit, but that whole 98, late 90s metal hard rock stuff.
Right.
And he's like, I don't know if you're into like, the more 80s arena rock. But I'm like, well, yeah, he's telling me he was in Tyketto. I'm like, I know who you are. I know the band you're playing with, And I remember he did a sound check with us at the Trade Winds, Mike. And he and I just clicked, and we were just jamming together, rocking. And he's like, I got a little something going on. And the singer, Danny Vaughan, had a side project. He was doing a solo project. And they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. The songs were done. I just recorded everything. And that's how it all started. I did two studio albums with Danny Vaughan and Michael back in, so that was like 98. And Kyle Cummings, he was part of it too. So that was like 98. I was doing Love Pumps plus this. And we were doing some Tyketto stuff too. So that was awesome. Right. And I remember they said, we're doing Forever Young. And I wasn't that kind of a guitar player. I was more just Allman Brothers and, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I love that 80s era. I love Racer X and all that, whatever, the list of bands go on and on.
Right.
But, Rat and Lay It Down and Warren DeMartini, all my dudes.
Yeah.
There's Lynch. So I was like, I got to learn the solo, but I'm like, this is not my style. So, but I just kept practicing. And we did it. You know, I got it, and we had a kind of an audition rehearsal after we did the record because they wanted to make sure I could pull it off. Because it's the Tyketto stuff's crazy, man. Brooks, a monster guitar player, Brooks St. James, and I was just honored to be a part of that family. And you know, all of us still talk to this day. You know, Michael's my boy. Danny's, I love Danny. You know, but we're all still in contact. And so from that, like, we did a couple of years touring, and then Love Pumps turned into Love Lies Bleeding. Changed the name.
Okay, right.
And then it just started getting really, really busy. So even with Michael's like, I don't know if I could keep touring. So that, I'm blessed. I mean, you know, it lasted for at least till, that was like 2003. 2003. So I was doing Love Lies Bleeding and the Danny Vaughan.
And Love Lies Bleeding was
yeah. It was Henry, you know, all the guys, you know, Henry, Rob. I reached out to him a couple of years back, you know, apologizing that, you know, because they hired me. I was always like that guy that kind of got the gig after somebody either left or, I didn't mind that role, but the hired gun, that documentary is pretty heavy. That one on Netflix.
Hired Guns, yeah, it's a great documentary.
Great documentary.
I have to go back and watch that again.
That's what you and I were doing, you know, like we were in the grind of it. And I was, you know, how many songs have we probably learned over the last decade?
A lot.
You know? So Michael, you know, Love Lies Bleeding then split, and Henry formed a new band, and then John, Steve, and I stayed with Love Lies Bleeding.
Right.
We did that for a little while. And then I really wanted to get like a little more involved with the corporate wedding scene. And that's when I reached out to Mike to see like if any of his other bands might be looking for a guitar player. And that's when I met all the dudes in New Power Soul. And that was amazing. And that was, you know, the next chapter of like learning a bunch of new songs. I had to get a book because they were doing weddings and but that was actually, you know what, dude, I totally forgot. I started back in like 97 with Hyperactive. Remember them?
No.
That was my very first gig professionally. So I was like 27 years old, and a guy that I went to high school with told me about this band that I used to go see down in Seaside all the time. They were like they're a ska funk original. And then we were doing a bunch of Fishbone and
wow.
Yeah, it was killer, dude.
Fishbone.
And it was like, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally was coming out of just playing Allman Brothers and Lynyrd Skynyrd. And he's like, dude, I don't know, but these guys are really established and they need a guitar player. Right. So that was my very first, forgive me, it's like, you know, coffee's starting to kick in.
There you go. It's early over there.
So that was my very first. The Hyperactive gig was amazing. And I learned a whole bunch of that style of like all rhythm. Like, there's a couple leads, like we were doing Sublime. And I remember learning Santeria, that lead, and they wanted it to be very specific and note for note. And then that's really what got my right hand, all the rhythmic stuff and all those inside inversion chords and thinking like a piano player in a sense.
Right.
And then it was like genre to genre, from that to playing Limp Bizkit and Static X and Korn to playing Tyketto.
Right.
You know, so, and, but yeah, that's where actually Hyperactive was my first cover scene, and we were still doing originals. And I remember John Zach is, this really good friend of ours, hairstylist, her name's Yvonne. She just had connections, and she's like, you know, I know of a couple bands that are looking for, I guess it was Smash Mouth was on the road with Buck 09. And remember Buck 09? I don't. They're killer. But so, okay. You know, like, I guess Buck 09 couldn't do some East Coast shows, and I approached my guys to maybe be, you know, open up for maybe Smash Mouth, at least pitch the band, because it was in the same genre. And it never panned out. But that was like, I felt like, wow, I'm really getting into this. Like, I want to be behind the scene in a sense. Like, how do you reach out to management and how do you get an opening spot for like a big label act, and that's when labels were, we were still, trying to get on, if you had original music, completely different than these days. But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but you know what I mean.
So when you were doing like the New Power Soul thing,
yeah,
were you making a living playing music, or did you have a regular job? Yeah.
I tell you, man, I was fortunate when I jumped on the Love Pumps gig. That's when I quit waiting tables. I gave my notice. I was working at a place that I loved working there. It was great, but they were fortunate. We had so much, work at the time. We were working like 5 nights a week. We had a steady Tuesday, Wednesday, every so often a Thursday, and steady Friday, Saturday.
Right.
It was like they gave me my calendar. And it was in New Jersey. We didn't really travel. I remember we first broke into Pennsylvania, right? Or you cross state lines and it's like, woo, I get a hotel room.
Right. Big deal. You're on tour.
Oh, yeah.
And you were making pretty good money in that band too, right?
I was making really good money. Yeah. And even with New Power Soul, it was like the jump. I'm like, oh, wow, this is what you make when you're playing corporates and weddings.
Right.
So I was fortunate, dude. Yeah. I was just doing that full time playing. I started giving guitar lessons a little bit just because it just made sense. And I loved interacting with people and knowledge. And, I was still taking lessons. I still take lessons, but the thing of that, you learn all these genres of music and people are like, how do you do that? Like, how are you able to, and it's like, well, it's the same chords. It's just a different rhythm style or, different tuning. And then I think that for me is what helped me understand wanting more. I'm like, well, I kept seeking the knowledge of, playing a New Power Soul. Now we're doing jazz standards. And I was intrigued by jazz. I still am. So I started studying jazz and then I went to school. So now I was going to school in New York for jazz performance and still doing a few other things. So it became like, I was so immersed with the music that it was like a dream, of course, a dream come true. So yeah, that was New Power Soul. But I wound up moving. Like I gave my notice. I left New Power Soul to move out. I was going to go to Musicians Institute. So I moved out to LA.
Well, but before that, you were playing in Garden State Radio, correct?
Oh yeah, dude. Well, so from New Power Soul, I went to Bobby Lynch. I was doing the Bobby Lynch band.
Yeah, and Bobby Lynch is a keyboard player and a singer from New Jersey who is uber talented, and he does. He was doing an Elton John show. I don't know if he still does, but I know Bobby's still playing in and around Jersey.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, continue. You were playing with Bobby.
Yeah, we were. Well,
and Wally, right, was playing. Or no, you were the guitar player. So who else was in the band?
It was D McP and Al Budd.
Okay.
So yeah, it was awesome. They were a trio, and they brought me on board, and then that flipped into the Elton John tribute. Bobby and Mike had a vision, but I jumped. So 2003 is when I met Carla because we formed Big Bang Baby with Paul Mooch.
Okay.
Remember that?
I remember the name. I don't remember seeing it.
So Mike had a vision of a big show with 2 female background singers, and we started from the ground up. So I left New Power Soul. No, I don't know. I'm getting confused. Doesn't matter, but whatever. We're all bros. So I don't remember what happened. I think I left for California. When I came back, I needed a job. And Michael said, I'm putting together this new project with Paul Mucci. And I met Paul Mucci. He was doing something with Paul Crook. And it was, I forget what it was called. What was it called? Gotham. It was Gotham City, but they called it Gotham. And Paul, both of them, super uber talented. they were doing all this Floyd stuff, and I went to go see him, and Paul's singing his ass off and mean bass player like you know, just killing it. And I'm like, wow, this guy, he's not even gonna be playing bass. He's gonna just front the band. I was blown away. So we put Big Bang Baby together, had auditions, and lo and behold, Carla, 18 years later, we're still together. She showed up for the audition. And it was like, brother, we were just like, bonk. And Mike was like, stay away from her.
Oops.
So she did the tour with us. So now, and that year, 2003, we did the big Sweden Rock. No, not Sweden Rock. We did, it was in Belgium. We did a huge festival. That was like the big thing. We did a bunch of shows in England and we were in Holland. So Carl and I really met on the road together. Like, that was it. We were like, we just knew. But we kind of keep it, you know, we kept it a little hidden, you know, but we were smooching a little bit on the side. But anywho, that's what happened. So we did that tour together. We came back. We were in Big Bang Baby together. And then that's what happened. I left Big Bang Baby and went into New Power Soul because I wanted to, I was like kind of tired of doing like just the rock stuff. I really wanted to you know, expand my vocabulary on the guitar. And I started getting into hollow bodies. And I remember I bought a hollow body for the New Power Soul gig, you know, and wearing I just dress up. It was just fun. You know, you're at somebody's wedding and you're in the personal space, but it was really cool. That's the timeline. Sorry. So New Power Soul lasted for a long time. And then that's when I left the band. I moved. Well, we did our tours together. And then like 2009, 2010, Bobby Lynch. And then that lasted for a long time. And then I joined Garden State Radio.
Right. And that was, I actually did a spotlight because that was one of the last times I talked to you actually at length on the phone was when you were in that band. And I did this a long time, and it's still on the website. I think you could see it, but I did a spotlight on that band. And I think that band kind of fell apart maybe after you left or shortly after you left, but that was a pretty good band too.
That was fun.
Yeah. You guys played some pretty cool gigs. I don't know if you were doing the corporate wedding thing with that band, were you? Or just
we started doing a couple of weddings. But I mean, we mainly were just like doing like we were traveling a lot. For me, that's what started becoming a grind for me. Like, I loved it. But then, as we all know, it started to like, is it worth it to drive to Arlington, Virginia? We're not getting hotel rooms, like they weren't providing us with hotels, like, so that was like on us. So
wow.
Even sometimes, like, cause now I was living up in northern New Jersey. So for me to even go to Atlantic City, you know how it is now. We get out of there, it's 2:00.
Yeah. It's a 3-hour drive.
So I would just stay over, I'm thankful I had a family in central New Jersey, but I didn't always stay there. And then sometimes I'm like, F it, I'll just drive home. But then it started like, is it worth? And then I'm like, I could be making more money just teaching. And that's kind of what happened. I started teaching at the School of Rock in northern New Jersey, doing some Garden State Radio gigs. And then, but that was fun, man. We did a lot of traveling. That's when it really started expanding. Like, they were thinking about going to Ohio and Pittsburgh. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, I did that. When I played in the Zeppelin tribute band. We had gigs in Ohio, which, what was it, 12-hour drive, something like that?
Yeah.
All the way across Pennsylvania, which seems like forever.
Right.
From the east to west coast of Pennsylvania. Like, yeah. Okay, so let's get you to LA. So, you made, I guess it was after I moved here, obviously, that you moved to LA. So it was the early 2010s, I want to say.
Yeah, we moved. I remember we were all hanging right before you moved, and you inspired us. I'm like, wow, Steve, you moved out of, yeah, because I don't know. I love traveling, but just exploring a new city or being somewhere, and when a bro moves, you're like, holy shit, he moved.
Right. He got out of Jersey.
Yeah, and So for us, Carla was always on board. She used to live in California, and I had an opportunity. I was actually recording. I started writing my own hard rock stuff, and I was still searching. I was still searching for a gig. I was like, somebody's got to be looking for a guitar player. Felt like I'm getting old. You're doing everything you can. This is pre YouTube, right? YouTube was kind of cracking, but not.
Yeah, it was new.
It was new. And
yeah.
I definitely wasn't doing videos and posting stuff,
Right.
So I started taking lessons with Metal Mike, who was playing in Halford for a long time. And he lives in Northern New Jersey. I seeked him out. And I think Kevin Bolenbach actually got me his information. He's like, yeah, dude, he's a cool dude. Contact him. And I started taking lessons with Metal Mike. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to play like Yngwie. He's like, okay. He's like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your target? And I'm like, well, I'd like to get a gig. He's like, well, do you write music? Do you sing? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, that's something you want to answer. He's like, I'd rather help you work on music, writing your own stuff, because then I could say to whomever might need a guitar player, well, this guy is a writer. He can sing background. He's like, we can learn Yngwie, but is that going to get you to your target? Maybe. But anyway, so he really influenced me to just write my own stuff. So I did. And I wrote a 6-song EP. Now, while I was getting ready to record, I had an endorsement with that company, ENGL Amp.
Right.
So the artist relations, his name was Michael Berger. He was out in LA, and I knew that they had Backline in New York. So I contacted him to see if I could get an amp from SIR. And while we were talking about it, he said, hey, man, I know you were thinking about moving to LA. Are you still considering? Because I could use a hand. So Carla and I talked about it, and I was still with Garden State Radio, and I felt like this opportunity is too good to be true. And if we can have a little income, Carla was still teaching. She's like, babe, I can teach. I can find students. Let's really think about this and consider it. So that's kind of where that started. We sold the house and we moved to LA. That was 2014. And I started with ENGL. I was kind of burnt out from the cover scene. And then I was really concentrating on my original music. So I wound up writing the whole record and working with ENGL. And then Michael Berger left the company, and they offered me the artist relations job for ENGL. So I took over doing that, and it's been amazing because now I'm like meeting everybody I grew up listening to, because we do a lot of just the bands that we work with. So,
and you're still with them?
Yeah, still doing it, and we actually merged with ESP. So ESP is doing our USA distribution. So now we do, we're a lot of that crossover. So we have a lot of ESP artists playing ENGL now, and that, talk about inspiring, just being all these young kids just, are just, I can't even, I started kind of getting into whole, Christian Colabelli. He's another badass guitar player, but he and I jammed a little bit before I moved, but he started getting into all this crazy tapping and different hybrid picking and economy picking. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can, my brain has any more capacity to learn more technique. So honestly, bro, what's that?
Of course it does.
I guess so. A little more there. So that's kind of what happened. We got out here, and it was like a whole new world of the people, our friends that we started meeting, and the shows, and then just my whole overall influence of I started going back to my blues roots, and you'd go to these jams, and it's like they're playing Allman Brothers and Doug Pinnick showing up, and they're singing Whipping Post, and it's like these, then you're kind of immersed with all these players that's the Lucky Strike, the jams. It's like Carl and I are this is what we were doing. Like they're playing Pat Benatar, they're playing Van Halen, they're doing all these, you know, they're playing covers, and it just became like, wow, like it's just universal. Like, so I try to tell my students too, like the young kids, like it's so important to just have even a bluesy foundation of just knowing Hendrix, knowing like just, you know, knowing how to play Sweet Home or something that it's just, or Back in Black, just songs that just never get old, you know? Like,
yeah, I agree to that. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I made a list of 50 songs that I think every cover band musician should know. I've gotten a lot of flack for that list because people see it and say, "Oh, these songs are so overplayed." That's why you need to know them.
that's right.
And my suggestion is not play all these songs. My suggestion is know all of these songs, because you're gonna have to play if you're gonna have any longevity in playing in bands. You're gonna have to play Sweet Home Alabama. Eventually, you're gonna have to play Jesse's Girl. Eventually, you're gonna have to play Living Out a Prayer, you know, songs like that. You need to know them. So I'll echo your sentiment that.
Well, you know what, too, even just revisiting those songs for me, like, you know, I have a folder that I just every so often, you know, I have some White Snake in there too, because you don't want to lose those chops, you know, Still of the Night. Don't forget. Right. But even the Tyketto stuff, you know, like I remember they played in Hoboken and they wanted me to come up and play, and they're like, what song, like what Tyketto song do you want to play? And I felt awful because I didn't know it. I'm like, I wish I would have practiced, you know, like Brooke is like, dude, come on up and play. And I was like, let's just do a blues. And then I don't think the owner, they didn't want it. They wanted a Tyketto, and that was it. And, you know, I was like, don't worry about it. It's cool. But you got to brush up too. You know, I remember when we did that tour, I'm like, holy crap, I got a lot of stuff to go back and learn.
Right. Yeah. You definitely forget. I mean, I've been fortunate here in New Orleans that I've played so much that some of those songs I've played, you know, 2,000 times, and it's like I'm never going to forget them. Yeah. I say that now, but maybe in 10 years I'll be like, what? How does Sweet Home Alabama go? I doubt that, but
it all comes back. Yeah.
You never know.
So I'll tell you this. I'll tell you one last thing. Go ahead. I interrupt you, though. What were you going to say?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so I wasn't doing any cover bands, pretty much nothing, as far as like I would go to do jams, and we would work with a few different artists. Carla and I started writing music together. We would perform. But then, so Carla started playing she got in the tribute scene out in LA. And, you know, yeah. So she was working with a Fleetwood Mac tribute. And then she's working on her own project, this Carole King project, Sweet Seasons. It's killer. But she really was like, babe, you know, if you're looking to get involved with the tribute scene, she's like, I could probably see who's looking for a guitar player. So lo and behold, they're Bruce Lawrence, great, super awesome guitar player. He's living in Nashville now, but so he was in the band with Carla, and he pitched me for a Guns N' Roses tribute band. Right. And he was like, I don't know if PJ's interested, because he knew I was doing the artist relations and doing my own thing. And I'm like, a GNR tribute? I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, I would love that, but I'm thinking, so I talked to, you know, it's called Appetite No. 4, Appetite for Destruction. Right. And I got a phone call from Covina on my phone, and I'm like, Covina? I'm like, I don't know anybody in Covina, California. And like a week went by, and then I get another call from Covina, and I'm like, who? So sure enough, there's two messages, and it's Gar, the singer, Garther. And so Gar leaves me a message. He's the singer and the band leader. And he's like, you know, Bruce Lawrence, blah, blah, blah. You know, he told me, you know, I got your number from Bruce. And I'm like, holy crap. He's like, you know, I'm like, two messages went by already. This poor guy. So I texted him right away. I'm like, so we get on the phone, and this guy's an angel. He's like, dude, just learn a few songs off of Appetite, and let's set up a rehearsal. So I'm like, wow, this is really happening. And he's like, from what Bruce told me, dude, he's like, you're the guy. And I'm like, okay. So, dude, so sure enough, I go and revisit my favorite album of all time. I wore it out on cassette.
Right.
So I start with just a couple. I'm like, okay, those, I'm listening. I'm learning a few, looking at the YouTube videos, because nowadays, it's like, I like the struggle, but when it's crunch time these days,
sure,
just find it. Some kid just ripping it up.
Yeah, thank God for YouTube. Yeah.
So, dude, I wind up learning, like, I couldn't help myself. I learned like 7. I didn't learn everything because I'm like, let me wait. I don't know if they're going to hire me. So I learned at least 6, 7 songs, go to the rehearsal, and these guys are all of them just awesome dudes. And we had a blast. I felt really good about the audition. And they said, we'll call you, what's your schedule like, or you're in the travel and you have a passport. So reliable car, because I had to go to the audition, which was in Riverside County, which was a couple hours away. So anyway, I get back home and I'm in the grocery store and I get a phone call and they offered me the gig. I'm like, oh my God, got all teary eyed. I'm like, I haven't played in a band. I didn't tell them that, but so they're like, we have a gig. So now I forget what day it was, date wise, but it was a weekend, it was a Sunday. And they said, we have a gig in Baltimore in like 12 days. Can you learn 23 songs? Wow. Like Civil War, like November Rain. Like they're going to send me the set list, even Rocket Queen. Like, I'm like, I love all these songs. And I'm like, I love Slash. And now I'm like, what did I do?
Right. What did I get myself into? So did you have to get the hat?
Oh, did let me hold on.
Well, you can't leave during an interview. Where are you going?
No, I lost it. It's not in the closet anymore. I thought I had it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the wig. Carla actually sewed the wig to the top hat.
Okay.
And so it's full on. Yeah, dude, we get all dressed up. But talk about crunch time. So I was so excited about this gig that, just, learn the songs. We had like one more rehearsal. Now, next thing you know, we're on a plane to my first, the irony, right? My first gig in the tribute band's on the East Coast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we played in Baltimore.
Okay. And
that was amazing. It was super hot. It was like, it was in August. It was brutal sound check. And I couldn't even imagine. So then sure enough, like it kind of, it rained a little bit, it got a little cloudy, but wearing that outfit when it's hot, that's rough. Right.
Plus you got to play guitar.
Yeah. A Les Paul.
A heavy guitar.
But dude, that's what I'm doing now. And, we had a couple gigs, obviously pre-COVID, but, so, there is plans. There's a lot of places outdoors. They're turning a lot of the drive-in movie theaters into these open venues now in California.
Okay.
Carla's got a gig coming up, but you talk to her another time.
Okay. So, when COVID hit, everything got shut down everywhere, but you were still kind of active with that band, with the Guns band. Yeah,
because there's a lot of outdoor stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But have you played since March? No.
Yeah, we did a gig in January. I got to play the House of Blues in Anaheim. That was amazing because that's their hometown. They're kind of Orange County based.
Right.
And then we did a gig in February, and then that was it.
I would imagine there's probably several Guns N' Roses tribute bands, especially in California. Yeah. Is that a competitive market, or are you guys just all kind of doing your own thing?
It's really competitive.
It is. Okay.
That's why we really try to stay true. Like our singer Gar does like all the costume changes. Like he does the rants. Like we're trying to really make it a GNR show, and we have like a 2-hour show now. It's insane. It's awesome. But yeah, it's like we put so much effort into making the show, as real as we can make it for the audience. And it's nice because it's like I get to use, your acting. I did a little acting when I got to LA. I started, doing some background acting, Then I started getting into it. I took a couple acting classes, and so I get the fulfillment now. I can play Slash as the character, and then I could still be me. Like they're like, we don't want a robot. We want like do what Slash would do. He doesn't play the same solo unless it's maybe a specific, if it's a specific song.
Sweet Child.
Yeah, Sweet Child, Jungle, something. What the audience wants to hear something.
Right.
It's relative, but it's like like Van Halen. Like that's like my three favorite: Hendrix, Van Halen, and Slash. There's a whole bunch of other guitar players that I love, but Van Halen never played the same solo twice. Maybe, but right. A lot of improv, a lot of bluesy stuff, and that's what I love about this gig. So it's really given me the opportunity to do a whole bunch of things that I've really been focusing in on.
That's cool. So, but then you're in Vegas now, right?
So we moved to Las Vegas. Carla and I really decided we needed to change. Like we were
during COVID or
yeah, we actually we were so Los Angeles was really the area that we lived in was really awesome because it was a community and we all really kind of stuck together. We had the window that we could still interact with our neighbors, and we really stayed connected with everybody, but there was no work. So I was still doing because I was teaching at the School of Rock. So now that closed. So we're virtual. So now I've been just getting into the whole virtual lessons, and but there's that was the thing. The music industry was like decimated. Everybody, even with ENGL, I'm working, and everybody's home. Like Def Leppard's home, like Kiss. They're some bands can you hope put a little some money in the bank. These big arena bands, but then there's other bands that are just up and coming. That's what they survive on. Always touring all year long out, and everybody, everybody knows that, So for us, I was still able to work doing the ENGL stuff and focus on really getting into teaching again. And I learned a lot from Carla because she's an amazing teacher. She teaches piano and guitar and voice, but she's really helped me focus in on like, if it's a beginner, like how to really handle, like you can't just assume that everybody knows what Mixolydian means. Right. What do you mean you don't know what that means, kid?
There are many adults that don't know what that means. So,
so I've embraced this teaching and really just, especially these days, having that interaction and I miss, like, this is amazing. Like I wish I could I'll give you a virtual hug, but I wish I'd give you a hug, bro. I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too, man.
And this is so important. And that's why it's like, I love the teaching, especially the kids need it. They're home all day. And then this is their freedom. I gave some lessons yesterday and we're working on the Zeppelin song. And I never learned, Babe, I'm going to Leave You. And I'm like, wow, this is hard.
It's a great song. One of my favorite songs.
Right?
Yeah.
So, hey, dude, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
When you were doing that, you're still doing that Zeppelin tribute?
I'm not still doing it, but I was doing it, yeah.
Now, didn't you mention that they wanted you to, because this is what I love about the GNR tribute. Like there's some versions of we do Double Talk and Jive that there's a specific, so like there's specific things like a little nuance but didn't they tell you like there was like a bass part that they were like, that John Paul Jones actually made a little mistake in the record or a live version?
I don't know if they told me, but I probably did that because I grew up, Zeppelin was one of my first influences in just music in general, but definitely bass. So I learned a lot of Zeppelin songs early, and if John Paul Jones made a mistake on the record, I made the mistake when I played it. Yeah, I tried to keep it as authentic as possible. So I did that when I played in the Zeppelin band too.
That's cool, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I also played keyboards in that band, which
nice.
Yeah. All right, so the lessons thing, like you were saying before, like you still have gone back and studied with other people, and I always tell the audience, the CBC audience, and anybody I talk to that you never stop learning. You can never really gain enough knowledge. You can always pick up something new from somebody different, just a different way of looking at things. So because everybody's locked down, And like I said, you're working with ENGL with the amps, but you're still teaching too. So I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to get in touch with you, because in my estimation, you're one of the best guitar players I work with, and I think you're a super nice guy, super easy to talk to, and I think anybody out there who's looking to kind of further themselves in their studies should contact PJ. So I'm going to I'm going to show this is his contact information. That's PJ Zitarosa.
Yeah, there it is. Look at that guy.
At gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with PJ, he can also find him on Facebook and all the socials.
Yeah.
And even just rap with him if you want to, but definitely if you want to hook up some lessons, you can contact PJ, because I know you're offering that now. And and you just said you're going to be moving back to Los Angeles.
We're actually heading back there this afternoon. Yeah, we miss it so much.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame you.
And I tell you, I love Las Vegas. Our last show with Jon Jones, right? We were in Las Vegas. That's where that was our last gig. The tour ended here, right? Because we played the Hooters. We stayed at Hooters, right?
Yes.
Right?
How could I forget that?
So I think that if this isn't like the universe, now we're actually leaving today to go back and start looking at houses in Los Angeles. And I'm leaving Las Vegas today. See what I'm saying?
Right. It's all in sync.
Yeah, did we miss it? I mean, there is a pulse in Las Vegas, but the pulse in Los Angeles, it's real. Like it's electrified. And it's just every area's got a little different vibe about it. But ENGL's there. That's where we're based out of. That's my home base. So I figured, at least being in Las Vegas, it's easy to get back and forth. But it's really not that easy. I don't want to be on a plane yet. Carl and I are staying safe, but that's a long drive. So even just thinking you're going to do it every other weekend, it's like,
what is it, like 2 hours? Is it more than that?
It's like 4
hours. LA to Vegas. Okay. You
could haul ass and maybe get under 4, but it's no matter how you slice it, it's about 4 hours.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
You gotta stop poopy pants or pee pants.
4 hours when you're on tour is like, it's nothing. It's a breeze. It's like you wake up in the hotel and you're like, all right, we're going to be in the next city in 4 hours. What are we going to do with the rest of our day?
Right.
Right. Because we had some of those 12-hour drives too.
Dude, do you remember how awful it was playing in Denver because of the altitude?
I remember the altitude being a thing. Yeah.
That's what's affecting us here, dude. I didn't realize where we're living is like, it's 2,400 feet up. Even the Strip, I guess I never realized it was 2,000 feet elevated.
I didn't know that.
It's like, it's a little too high for me.
Yeah.
Let me be this high. I like sea level.
I hear you. Well, come to New Orleans, you'll be below sea level.
Dude, we were planning, that's what I'm saying, like, because the GNR, we're doing a lot of traveling, and they wanted to get down to New Orleans, and, I was looking forward. I've never been, man.
Oh, it's killer. I mean, hopefully, we get past this COVID thing. You get to come visit here, because this city is just, it's magnificent. For musicians or music fans, you have to at least visit this city. It's I mean, I've been here for a little over 10 years now, and I feel like I've still barely scratched the surface of what's
over
out
10
there.
years. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, 2010 when I moved here.
Yeah, but don't forget that you inspired us, bro. I'm like, Stevie moved. I'm like, I want to move.
Well, thank you. It's nice to inspire people.
Of course. I'm playing with you, man.
I know. Likewise. All right, so you can stick around, but we're going to wrap this show up. PJ, thanks for being here in front of the Cover Band Central audience. Sure appreciate you. And again, I will show your contact here. If you want to get in touch with PJ, do that. That's his name there. And you can find him on Facebook too. Send a friend request. Tell him CBC sent you.
Awesome.
And next week, guys, there'll be no interview because I will be under the knife again for my
the best, brother.
My elbow. Thank you, PJ. And that's it for today. Coverbandcentral.com. Go sign up for a profile for you, your band, both. We'll see you.